What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I also did want to jump back into the Crew 2 and do the Luxury SUV Summit. That is going to come down to the fact that we have the Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT Basalt Edition. This thing looks absolutely insane. It's going to have like a matte finish to it and forged carbon around it. You're also going to see a really nice like green type of color on like the lines. So I cannot wait to see this car come into Motorfest, but I do want to mention, by the way, I'm most likely not going to be doing many of the Crew 2 videos with the summits in the future, unless something like that car does most likely come out again. Now, getting into this summit, though, I would say a lot of players are most likely going to be a big fan of it, or of course, at the exact same time, they're most likely going to hate it. But on the one positive note about this, though, if you haven't really played this game that much, I would recommend getting on and getting the summit done. The reason for that is going to come down to the fact that many people are not even doing it. For example, right now there's only going to be 10,000 players ranked, of course, only on PlayStation. So I would probably say that's not going to be a ton amount. Normally we see something like 50 or like 80,000 on some of the cars, but we do know most players are probably going to be on Motorfest at this time. But jumping right into this though, so there is going to be three mad skills here. The first one is going to be based on a rally raid vehicle that is going to take you on a very interesting course. Surprisingly, the biggest thing here is all you're going to have to need is a score breaker set on your rally raid vehicle. That way you can basically run almost any rally raid truck or dirt bike on this, and you are most likely going to get well over 150,000 points. So luckily many of the skills are going to be fairly simple. Now for the next one though, you are going to have to use a rally cross car, and I have to admit this one's pretty frustrating. At least trying to keep the car in a straight line. For me though, I found the Ford Fiesta to be a decent car for this. One big tip I can give on this, so when you are jumping through the objectives, make sure you guys do not turn that car while it's in the air. Try to almost like aim that thing to where it has to jump and land. Keep in mind you also do not have to be insanely quick on this. Like I was maxing out third gear in some areas and pretty much making sure I do make the jump to the next objective, and I still got 153,000 points. And then for the final skill here is going to be a slalom, with of course being a jet sprint boat. I would say the biggest thing with this is to probably come down to the fact that yes, you obviously will have to jump. You're also going to be going over some weird terrain and of course, using a jet sprint in a place it most likely doesn't belong in. But once again, similar to the rallycross though, I would recommend not turning the boat in the air. At least try to aim that thing to jump toward the next objective that way. And if you end up slowing down in some places, you can always hit your nitrous in the air to make you a bit quicker and get you to that next objective. Now for the first event in this summit though, you are going to be able to use the new Audi RS Q8, which by the way, I absolutely love this car. It sounds incredible. I was recently in an SQ8 as well, and my goodness, these cars are so dang quick, and you really can kind of feel that on how fast the acceleration is. Now for this event though, the biggest tip I can give is yes, you want to keep your speed up in the big straightaway areas. The big thing though is to be careful around those corners because you can lose a lot of speed in them. And I would say that's probably going to be like the biggest downfall with this car, is of course it's going to be a big SUV and not a small sports car. And then moving over to the next event here is going to be with the new Porsche Cayenne, which by the way on this event is going to be the Strip West. So there is going to be lots of turns and like I guess you could say some cuts in some areas. Luckily I would say this event is probably going to be fairly simple. This vehicle is also going to be a regular base car, so it's not going to be all that quick. And of course on top of that you have no parts on it either, so like no chemists and stuff like that. But the big thing is of course getting around those turns as fast as you can. And one thing I did notice though is practicing with that nitrous can make you a lot quicker. Moving over to the next event though is going to be with the new Defender 110 V8. I was kind of surprised to see this car, like it is going to be a new truck. Surprisingly enough, it's also going to be a 2022. Now for this though, I did get 77,000 points. Now the big thing about these really annoying stunt races is you will most likely have to get better at drifting the vehicle. Like, yeah, you can go around hitting the boxes and stuff like that, but the big thing is you can get a lot of points from actually drifting around in like a circle. There is going to be one point in this event where you basically can go around this said circle for around maybe like 45 to 50 or so seconds, depending on how long it does take you to get there. And I got around maybe 20,000 points from that one area by drifting around. And then moving over to the next event here is going to be with the Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT8. It's also going to be the Stage 6 event, so it is going to be a fairly long race, being around probably most likely 4 minutes for most players. And of course, if you can keep the speed up or like slipstream, you could probably do it a bit quicker. Now, the big thing with the Jeep though is I did notice the overall top end power on this truck is honestly not that great. And I would say that's probably going to be the biggest downfall with it. Even running something like a regular chemist said, it's still going to struggle above like 150. So if you are looking to get your speed up, you're most likely going to have to slipstream. One thing I can also recommend though is try to use that nitrous. And then moving over to the next event here is going to be with a hypercar that's of course no restriction, so you can pretty much use any vehicle of your choice. I would say one of the most used vehicles is probably going to be the Chiron Super Sport, and on top of that you're most likely going to see the creator's Tempesta. Now for me though, I did want to run the lovely Bugatti Divo. This car is going to be insanely good basically all the way around, and luckily the Latrell's car Part 2 race is going to be fairly simple. The biggest thing is watch out for those corners. And then for the final event in this summit is going to be a mix with an Alpha GP car in a hypercar event. Luckily it's going to be a fairly easy race, basically being on the highway. So the big thing here is I would recommend using like a newer Alpha GP car that's a bit quicker. One thing about these though is yes, they might do 320 miles an hour. The issue with that though is you are going to be pushing your nitrous a bit too much to get it there. And even for the Concept Pulse performance, I was keeping this car pretty much going around maybe 300 miles an hour like a regular Alpha GP car. So I would say the overall top speed on some of the new Alpha GP cars is not that big of a deal. Overall though guys, I would recommend jumping onto the Crew 2 and going after this Porsche Cayenne Turbo. If I had to guess, the overall platinum on this one is going to be incredibly low, so I would recommend jumping on and grabbing this thing. If you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below. Let's jump right into this.
you